Hello, my name is Bill Haley, and this is part of Haley 2024, The Movement's Government Reform Ideas. This one's going to be teaching on the Haleynomics on an economic lesson. And this economic lesson is about the Laffer Curve. So what is a Laffer Curve? It is about how much tax revenue comes in based off different tax rates. So let's get right into it. I'm going to try to put out a quick video, a medium-sized video, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, and then maybe a little longer one, 30 minutes, really going in depth on what this means. Okay, let's say we have a streaming service, $10 streaming service, and we have a 25% sales tax. It's a $10 streaming service, so you have to pay $12.50. That's the equivalent of a 20% income tax. So if you got paid $12.50, you got a 20% income tax, you get paid $10 because the government takes $2.50. Then you can buy your streaming service. Or if you got paid $12.50 without any income tax, you had a streaming service for $10. They charge you a 25% sales tax. So they charge you $12.50. You have to give government $2.50. Either way, the government's getting $2.50. The streaming service is getting $10, and you had to do enough work to earn $12.50. So let's go over it real quick. I'm going to go over it really quickly. You can look at the screen if you want to and really go over each one. But at 50% sales tax is the equivalent of a 33 1/3% income tax. Pushes the price up to $15. At 100% sales tax, it's like an income tax of 50%, and it pushes up to $20. 200%. Let's stay on this one for a minute. 200% sales tax, which means you buy the streaming service for $10. The government taxes you $20, so you have to pay $30 altogether to the streaming service. The government takes and sends it off 20 of it to the government. Same thing as you made $30 and it had a 2/3 income tax. So you made $30, the government takes $20 of it, you get $10 deposited in your bank account after taxes. Either way, the government takes 20, the streaming service gets 10, and you had to work enough to work for 30 hours. Let's go over it. 500% and 900%. 500% sales tax pushes the price up to $60. 500% sales tax. The sales tax is $50 off a $10 streaming service. So it's $60. And 900% sales tax is $90 plus a $10 base price. Let's stay on this one for a minute. $100. You had to make enough. You had to earn enough or work enough to earn $100. You have to give $90 to the government for the privilege of buying the streaming service from Disney, Hulu, Netflix. If you have a 90% sales tax or 900%, the equivalent 900% sales tax. Income tax 90, sales tax 900%. Same thing. Okay, so you must pay the government $90 in order for you to offer Disney or Netflix or Hulu $10 for the streaming service. At what point are you going to stop and say, I don't need the streaming service? I don't want to put in enough labor hours to earn $100 just so I can give $90 to the government. Everybody's going to be different. That's what makes up the Laffer Curve. It's because some people drop off when it gets up to 20%. Some people drop off when the income tax goes to 30%. Some people drop off when it goes up to 50%. Some people won't even drop off when it goes to 90%. But there's going to be a small percentage of people who still hang on and will willing to pay. They really want that streaming service. But by the time it gets to 100% sales tax, 100% income tax, and that's the equivalent of infinity sales tax, million, billion, trillion % sales tax. It's just you have to give all your money to the government in order for you to the privilege of buying Netflix for $10. Well, you won't have any money because you gave it all to the government. You're not going to get the streaming service, or the streaming service is not going to charge a penny or less than a penny, or just give it away. Business models will change. You're going to do without. You're going to go to a different taxing jurisdiction. You're going to move, buy it somewhere else that's not where it's not taxed. There's a lot of things you can do so you're not paying the tax. You can do evasion under the table. You can, you and a lot of friends get together and go into one account. It's not legally allowed. it's price evasion. It's kind of like a tax evasion as well, because you're not paying the tax as well. So you can do a tax avoidance or tax evasion. So let's keep on going through this. Okay, let's just put all these things on the screen real quick. If you're going to trade 10 chickens for 10 bushels of corn, at some point the tax is not going to make it worth it. You're going to do either both grow your own chickens, both grow your own corn, buy a lot less from each other, or just do without. Or different taxing jurisdiction, do without. There's a lot of things you can do not to pay the tax. And at some point you're not going to want to. At a 0% tax rate, you both give up 10, either chickens or bushels of corn, and you both get the other 10 bushels of corn or chicken. At 50%, you both give up 10, and you both get 5 of what you don't give up. What you get 5 of what the other person gave up. The government's getting the other. At 80% tax, you both give up 10, and you both get 2. The government takes the other 8. So for the privilege of doing the trade, I want 2 chickens, I have to give up 10 bushels of corn. The other guy says, I want 2 bushels of corn, I have to give up 10 chickens. Not very fair. Not too many people are going to want to do that. Look at the last one, 100%. There are some people who actually wanted 100% sales tax or income tax, an income tax, or definitely a lot more than 90%. They don't have any problem with that. 90%. So let's talk about 100%. You trade 10 chickens for 10 bushels of corn. Government takes all of it. You don't get any. The other person doesn't get any. Both the sides go without. They're not going to do the trade in the first place. Why raise the chickens? Why grow the corn? Just to give it to the government. You're going to start growing corn on your own and chickens. Both. Both people are. Or you're going to do it on the table. You're going to go to a different taxing jurisdiction. You're going to move altogether. It's happened. All those examples happen on a daily basis. Okay. Let's go to the actual... Okay. This is one of my favorite screens. This is not the Laffer Curve. This is tax income coming up, and that's normally what the Laffer Curve is. But the top line here, let me go with this right here. This top line is taxable GDP. Now, this is saying that the bottom line is percentages. Now, this is not what actually happens. The Laffer Curve does not assume this. This is tax rates going from 0 over to 100. Now, what am I trying to show here? The taxable GDP, the economic activity that is taxed, is going to stay at 100, representing the full amount of economic activity possible without the disincentive of the tax, and it's going to stay the same all the way. Go back to my charts. Nobody's going to stop trading chickens. Nobody's going to stop buying their streaming service. People are going to keep on doing those trades as much as you would have otherwise. And here's your tax income right here. If you tax 50%, you're going to get $50. If you tax 70%, you're going to get $70. If you tax 10%, you're going to get $10. The taxable GDP does not change. Well, that's not going to be true. Now let's add this line in here. This is money we keep. If it's 10% tax off of $100, you keep 90, tax, and the government takes 10. You go over here, 50. The economic activity is 100. Government gets 50, you get 50. The Laffer Curve does not assume this. The Laffer Curve does not assume it keeps on going up. This line has to change because nobody's going to do economic activity at 100%. 100% down here is not going to still do the same amount of economic activity. That's silly. People are going to change their behaviors. So let's go to the next line. This is where the Laffer Curve comes into place the most. This is not the Laffer Curve, but this is a more important line for the Laffer Curve. This is a taxable GDP. Without any disincentive of doing the tax, you have $100 worth of economic activity. Now, we obviously need to fight off foreign foes. We need a rule of law and the like. So we can't do 0 taxation, but let's go to 10%. Let's stay at 10%, and let's say that economic activity is 90. that is, when it's 90, it is the full economy. That's kind of like America. Down here, when it's 20, that's kind of like Venezuela. Down here, 10, that's more like North Korea. Some third world countries over here, for second world countries, developing countries over in the middle here, and the more advanced countries, England, Canada, some parts of Mexico, you have some of the per capita income very high. This is kind of like per capita income, because when you're at 20, that is your full economy. You don't see everything above here. So important to see that no economist over in Venezuela is looking at the 20 as a full economic activity, the per capita income type of thing. They're not looking at 80 because they don't understand how it could ever be that way. If you allow people to have free markets, people are going to start doing a lot more economic activity, a lot more productivity, and the like. So it's very important to know that this is wherever you are on this graph, that's your whole world. That is your whole economy, your whole country's economic activity, your whole economic output. So let's keep on going a little bit. Now, let me go back here before I go to the next screen. It's so important to know this is with zero tax disincentive because it's at 0%. And this is at 100% tax disincentive. You're not going to get any money. You're not going to get the product. You're not going to get any income from working. You work, you make $100,000, government takes 100%. You don't care whether you make $10,000, $100,000, or $1 because you're not getting any of it anyway. So that's what this is talking about. Why ask for a raise? Why work extra hours? Now, this is taxable GDP, by the way. Let's say you don't start taxing until after 40 hours of work. They say you're tax exempt for the first 40 hours you work, and then anything above that, you start taxing at 50%. Are you going to be working overtime? Maybe not. Not unless you really, really need it. If the need is high, then you will. If your need is just, if you're earning just for some wants, a third vacation, a little bit of extra entertainment, somebody do your laundry for you, maid service or whatever, and you're paying 60, 70, 80% taxation, you're just not going to go do the extra work. You're going to spend more time with your children, with your family. You're going to get different activities you're going to do for leisure hours. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about this. So it's so important. But it has to go from 100% or $100 at a 0%. That means zero economic activity being dissuaded, disincentivized by the tax code, by the tax rate. All the way to the maximum amount of disincentive. There's no reason to work at all. And if you do, just give away your work. Why let the government have it? Okay. But is it going to go a straight line? What's the plausibility it's going to go a straight line? Now, the reason it goes diagonal anyway is because some people are going to start, this says 50% of the people are going to start dropping off. Now, all the way out of the workforce or just cutting back their hours, but economic activity, people are going to be working 50% less, whether individually or some people are working none and other people are still working some and only cutting back 20 or 30%. But at some point, this is talking about economic activity being dissuaded enough that full amount of economic activity output is diminished. On the taxable side, if you exempt stuff, let's say you exempt the first 30,000, we're not talking, that's outside of this. You made that. The government's not getting any money from a tax or taxable activity or would be a taxable activity that is deducted or exempted. So if you exempt the 30,000, first 30,000 that you earn, government's not going to be getting any of that because they don't get any tax from an exempted income. You also have to realize that first 30,000 is going to go onto your basic needs, your basic housing, a one-bedroom apartment, if you will, your basic inexpensive food. If you have to walk to work, if you have to, bike to work, buy the inexpensive car, live on the cheap, what I'm talking about. Your basic needs are met. when your basic needs are not met, you are still hungry, your children are hungry, you're willing to work even at high tax rates. When the high tax rates go way over here, you're still willing to work a lot. So, highly important to know that once it goes more towards wants, this goes down more rapidly, quickly. It has started at 100, go down to 0. Now, what's the possibilities? These are the three possibilities. Starting off with a slow loss of GDP, which means we keep on working even though tax rates go higher for a while. 10%, you only drop off 1% of economic activity. Nobody's dropping off at the first 10% because it's based off of a lot of needs. So it's a slow loss of GDP. But by the time you get to 50%, you only dropped off 30-some percent. You're still at $64 worth of economic activity. But then it still has to drop down to 0, even based off of needs. But you see how people keep on working longer, and based off of, because they really need the money, they're willing to withstand a lot higher tax rates. This is your average, what we started with before. So everything starts at 100, goes down here. Now let's talk about wants. This line right here. This is wants. I want a third vacation. I want a $2,000 sofa. I already have a nice sofa. I really don't need it. Do I really want to put in 10 extra hours per week for a whole year and have to pay a 70% tax rate to get there? No. The higher the tax rates, the faster the economic activity. You'd rather take leisure hours when you're only going against wants, not needs. So you see, even after a 10% tax rate, you drop off a lot, $19 there. $64 economic activity after 20% on the fast loss of GDP. Now, it's hard to imagine it going anywhere outside of this range. This is a big range. Now, if you have a major war and you really want to win that war, your uncle, your husband, your sons are over fighting in the war, you might work your fingers to the bone and work 80 hours a week and get paid $10. And you say, that's fine because I want to make sure my husband and my son and my uncle have exactly what they need to fight that war because I want them home. Every situation is different. Economics always changes with different circumstances, and a major war will mean that you're willing to work and you might even withstand a major tax rate. On the other side, let's say we have a war and you really don't agree with it. You think that we're the aggressor. We're in the wrong. You have a high desire to take away government money. So even at a small tax rate, you're going to drop off. After you got paid after you take care of your needs, you drop off very rapidly, and even at a 10-20% tax rate, you're like, I don't even want them to have any of my money. They're doing stuff really awful with my money. So we drop off quickly. So you can see it coming down even farther and even faster. But it's kind of hard. That's in extreme positions. But here's the average. So we're going to mainly go with average. Now let's talk. We haven't even got to the Laffer Curve yet. We're talking about the more important line of taxable GDP going down as tax rates go up. And that is so important to know that this is your whole economic outlook. You don't see anything above or below. Yes, you can look at Venezuela and say they have a per capita of $1,000. I don't know what exactly it is per year. And America has $30,000 a year per capita. Whatever it is. I'm not sure right now. I know it's higher than that. So anyway, but North Korea or third world nations, you can see that those per capitas are way down in this range. And sometimes it's because they have a whole bunch of socialism and they tax very high. And you look at Hong Kong and a couple different places that have a very low tax rate. Now, other things affect this too. No doubt about it. Regulations, the culture, there's a lot of things. Your rule of law, your foreign policy. There's so many factors that affect this. Right now we're trying to focus on the tax rates. And other things can make major effects. So this can go all out of whack, no doubt, with other factors. but you would have to go with the standard going from 100% economic activity to 0 as the tax rates cause such a disincentive all the way to the maximum disincentive of government's taking everything. Okay, so this is the Laffer curve we're talking about. This is the amount of money government's coming in. This is the amount of, this is your taxable GDP line. That's the one we started with. The average drop. It drops $10 for every 10% you go up. Starting off with $100, 50% taxation rate, your economic activity is only 50, going up. And keep in mind, as you go up, government's providing more and more and more for the citizens. They're providing more and more of your needs. Therefore, the taxable GDP line is going to be on the want, which is a faster loss of GDP. Here's money you would get to keep. I haven't drawn that line in here. You see that line. You should be able to see it on the screen. You see that line, and it drops down kind of rapidly. $81 we get to keep because economic activity went to 90. Government takes 10%, which is $9, and we're left with $8. Government consists $9. You go up here to $21 at 30%. This is a Laffer curve. This is how much economic activity, how much tax collections, tax revenue the government gets. This bottom green line, the green numbered line right here. It's so important that you know that this is it. We never want to be on this side of the Laffer curve. The more we increase tax rates, this taxable GDP line drops so rapidly that the tax revenue that government gets goes actually down. So this maxes out at 50%, but we never want to be there. Because look at here, at 40% tax rate, we have a 60% economic activity of GDP. To go to 50% tax rate, we drop $10 in economic activity, and government only collects $25. What you have left in your paycheck goes from $49 to $36. You lose $13 in your paycheck. Full economic activity goes down from 60 to 50, which is like a 17-18% drop from a 60 to a 50. And government only gets another $1. So a horrible deal there. We want government to do less. It's okay right up in here. Government's getting some. They're doing some basic military, some rule of law, some policing, some prisons, and the like. My preference would be no more than 10. That's why my policies take so much of the government spending going from $25 to $9. So the activity can go up to 50 to 90, which is almost double, which is highly significant. Now, would you go overnight? No. It'd be 4%, 5% growth versus a 2% growth over 5 years, over 10 years, and you grow 10, 20, 20%. I forget my numbers exactly, but I think that ends up being like 23, 24%. More economic activity, a 2% increase versus a 4% increase versus a 2% increase for 10 years gives you about a 22, 23% increase in economic activity overall. The full economic output of the country. That's 25% is a lot. That's from going from 70 to 80 or almost maybe a little bit more than 80. That's a lot. So right now, government spends about 38 to 40% of GDP. So I'm saying that we're probably right here. If we go to a 90, a 10% tax max goes to a 90, that's a 50% increase in economic activity. That's a very large degree. How much do we keep in our pockets? Right now, $36 in our pockets because our whole outlook is $60. Our whole outlook is going to be $90, a much larger GDP. We have roughly a $20 trillion economy right now. A 50% increase means a $30 trillion economy. We get $81. Look at the difference between $36 we have in our pockets now versus 81. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of the money that we are not spending on government services, we're going to have to spend in the free market system. Pay for our own military, I mean, pay for our own police, pay for our own education, pay for our own roads, private roads. That's why I take so many of my reforms, take it into the free enterprise system. Because the Laffer Curve shows that and look, how much money did we really lose by taking it from 40% to 9%? Yes, on the Laffer Curve, if you drop taxes, you do drop down how much economic activity you have. I mean, you drop how much tax revenue you get from $24 to $9. To my math, that's about 15 bucks. We gained $30 in economic activity. That's worth it. That's very worth it. Yes, we have to take that extra, that $15 we're currently spending on education, on roads, and all that stuff. We have to spend it ourselves through the free enterprise system, where it's not so much of a disincentive of doing the economic activity. So we still have to pay for the stuff. Anyway, let's go on to the next slide. And this is the fast loss of GDP. This is based off of wants. If we have the universal basic income, let's say, that's supposed to take care of our basic needs. A small apartment, food, make sure we have the basic medical care. It's supposed to take care of the basics. It doesn't get up that high, but even $12,000 which is what Andrew Yang is proposing, and many of the basic income guarantees are roughly $1,000 or $10,000 a year. So let's go 10 to 12,000. Not enough for the basic necessities of life, but it's supposed to be taking care of a lot of your needs. So this is going to be a very fast loss of GDP if we have a universal basic income. As tax rates go up, people will drop off very rapidly because their basic needs are already met. They're getting that basic needs from your government. But as the tax rates go up, the income goes down. And you see here, we never get above $15 in tax revenue to the government. And at 30%, we start dropping very rapidly down the bad side of the Laffer Curve. So 30% is a max we ever want to be at when we only taxing off wants, not needs. Let's go to the next one real quick. This is a slow loss of GDP. This is where if we have a war and people are really motivated to work, people don't have enough food on their table, people don't have enough to pay their rent, they're willing to withstand a lot of tax rates and keep on working because their needs are a lot of needs. You don't want to go without food, you don't want to go without shelter, without heat for your pay for your electric bill or your natural gas bill or whatever to have heat in your house. You want to make sure you have gas in your car so you can go to work and the like. You need to keep on working. This one says you can get all of $38 in economic activity, tax revenue to the government. That's a lot, no doubt. And you're still working at 60% taxation rate. You're still working and willing to work $64. You only dropped 30, 35, 36, well, that's exactly 36% from no tax rate. So that's a good, but this is based off of need. That means if we tax off the first dollar and we tax basically the needs, well, most liberals, more people on the left, more people on the socialist side, people who support Bernie Sanders and AOC and the like, they're wanting to not tax the first $30, $40, $50,000 and push all the tax up above when you're making $50 to $100,000 and above. Therefore, they're wanting to only tax wants. That second jet, that yacht. People are willing to give up their yacht to spend more time with their family. They're not willing to not work if they still need to put their family in a shelter, put their family through education, put their family, put food on their table of their family. So this is the best case scenario, but it's based off of need. But we still don't want to do that. You still get a lot of good tax revenue from it. But you have to start taxing at the very first dollar. No exemptions, no deductions, no tax credits, and you still want to have as low amount of product or products and services going through government as possible. We really want to stay right over here anyway, because why even go down a little bit? But we're not going to ever get through a tax code So the more progressive of a tax code there is, which means higher rates as you gain more income. That's silly because you have higher rates as when you only taxing based income based off of your next dollar you earn goes towards wants. Your basic necessities of life, your needs are taken care of when the tax rates are 10 or 0, 10, 15%, and then they go 38% or higher when you have $1 million. So when you're only taxing everything above $1 million, let's go 50, 60, 70%, you're not getting this chart. You're going back, you're going back to this fast loss of GDP for the millionaires. And also, what happens when millionaires save money? It's being spent on durable goods. They invested in a factory. When a rich person saves money, the money is spent. It's just spent on something that holds its worth. And the rich person still owns what they bought, what they built. They built a factory, they built a business, they built a durable good. They still own that durable good, but it's producing wealth now because it's producing worth, it's producing jobs, it's producing products, it's putting people to work. So we don't want to tax the rich at high tax rates because you're taking away money that they could use to invest in durable goods and businesses, in creating a higher productivity in the workforce. But also, these rich people can go home very easily after making their, let's say, 200,000 or 300,000, make a very good living, live a very good life, where we want them to make their millions. Because what happens when they make millions? They serve people. Who makes that decision on whether they got served? The people paying over the money. I'm willing to pay you $10 for that gallon of milk. I'm willing to pay you $5 for that orange. Those numbers are wrong. I know that's a little bit high. But you're willing to pay those things. Anyway, lost my train of thought. Let's go on. Okay, that's a slow loss of GDP. Okay, these are the three Laffer Curve lines. Slow loss of GDP, when you're basically taxing on needs, you can get way up here to $38 as the economic activity slowly goes down as your tax rates go. This is best case scenario, even at 60% taxation. We're never going to get there. We never should even get close to being there. Our average, 25 max. Our fast loss of GDP, basically taxing based off needs. You got 15 max here. We never want to be on this side here. We'd much rather be on this side, but then we're only taxing the needs. So we're not going to really get there because we want to tax pretty much the same rate across the board for everyone. No exemptions, no deductions, and definitely no tax credits. Those are three very bad things for the economics of tax collections. Okay, these three lines are the money we keep. So you see the money we keep on a slow loss of GDP, it goes down pretty rapidly, pretty much on a diagonal line. At the average, it goes down rapidly, then kind of evens off. But evens off means instead of earning and keeping $100, we're earning and keeping $25. We're earning and only keeping $9. We earn 15, we keep 9. No, we keep 3. I'm sorry, drop down there. No, this is not earning. If we earn this 3. The economic activity is what, 21 bucks? No, so only like $10 there or something. It's not much. I forget the numbers. I went off numbers a little bit. Okay, so this is my basic Laffer curve. Economic activity is the most important line. Money we keep in the actual Laffer curve here in the green is how much tax is collected. So we never want to be on this side of the Laffer curve. So, there's my 34 minutes on the Laffer curve. I'm going to try to do another video for 15 minutes, then another really quick one on 5 minutes. And hopefully people can understand what we're talking about. But if prices matter, the Laffer curve is true. And prices matter, therefore the Laffer curve is true. So, until the next video.